Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. One of the state's top greyhound trainers has had a lifetime ban overturned by the Tasmanian Racing Board. Anthony Bullock has successfully appealed the ban imposed last year after the Office of Racing Integrity found him guilty of possessing an animal part for use as bait. A warning, some of the vision in this story is confronting.
Drone footage released by Animal Liberation Tasmania in August of Anthony Bullock's property sparked an investigation into wider animal welfare issues on his premises. It was a shock to many that the multiple premiership-winning trainer was banned for life, but Mr Bullock always maintained his innocence. The Tasmanian Racing Appeal Board finding in his favour, overturning the ban. RSPCA Tasmania disappointed with the decision.
One of the challenges that we face in Tasmania generally about animal welfare is that the rules and regulations here are so archaic that it's very difficult to get a conviction on anything.
The board found that it couldn't be proven Mr Bullock knew that a native marsupial's tail had been attached to a training lure found at his Exeter property by racing investigators last year, while the board determined there was no question that the Paddy Malin tail was located on the property. It wasn't satisfied that Mr Bullock knew of its existence and couldn't rule out that someone else was responsible for placing it there. The Greens believe greyhound racing should be stopped.
Gentle, sensitive animals are being treated in the most inhumane ways, and the majority of Tasmanians understand that and want greyhound racing to end.
I think we always have to be careful that the bad behaviour of some doesn't reflect what can be really good behaviour by others. So no, talking about shutting down the racing industry is not on the agenda of this government.
Anthony Bullock wasn't speaking to the media today, but in a statement expressed profound relief at the overturning of the ban. He has vowed to focus on caring for his greyhounds and winning races for his clients. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
4 climate activists will face fines of up to $400 after pleading guilty to trespass charges, appearing in the Magistrates Court in Launceston this morning. Members of Extinction Rebellion, they were arrested after refusing to leave the Perth office of Federal Labor MP Brian Mitchell during a protest in November last year. They were ordered to pay fines of between $250 and $400 plus court costs. Shocking new figures show, on average, nearly 1 person a week is dying after being ramped at Tasmania's public hospitals. The East Devonport community fearing that figure will spike when its main medical centre shuts down next month.
6,000 clients in strife as East Devonport Medical Centre prepares to shut in 2 weeks.
The government has failed to plan for our ageing population. It's failed to plan for adequate community health services. We don't have any other additional community health services here in East Devonport on this side of the river.
Merging with Smart Clinics Devonport on the other side of the Mersey River, owner Better Medical has suggested clients transferred there. An action easier said than done.
How can you simply open up 6,000 new clients into a clinic that is already full to capacity? So I want to know what they're going to actually be doing about getting this clinic reopened.
Preparing for a meeting with Health Minister Guy Barnett tomorrow, members of the public will also raise concerns about the impact the clinic's closure will have on the state's ambulance service and the practice of ramping.
We need the federal government to step up here. We need them to not turn their back on Tasmanians, to acknowledge we have an issue with GPs and it is impacting other areas of service.
In the past 5 years, 136 people have died on Tasmania's hospital ramps, according to new Health Department figures, 44 in the past financial year.
It's very clear from research in Victoria that after 17 minutes, every minute after that, there's an increased risk of harm.
A parliamentary inquiry into the ramping crisis is due to finish in April, but the health union isn't confident its recommendations will ever see light.
Most workers are pretty cynical because this government has done nothing to help our health system for 10 years.
Patients forced to play a waiting game with time they don't have. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Family and friends of Alison Robinson have paid their respects to a much-loved wife, mother and sister at her funeral in Mornington. The 39-year-old died in a house fire on Sanders Street in Glenorchy earlier this month. Police investigations are ongoing into how the fire started, saw neighbours and friends watch on in shock. David George Evans is set to front the Magistrates Court on February 1, accused of her murder. Tasmanians are being urged to prepare for more heavy rainfall and dangerous storms forecast to hit the north and central areas tonight and tomorrow. The SES has already received 14 requests for assistance, most in the state's northwest. 30 millimetres of rain fell in Launceston, 41 in Cressy. Peter Murphy will have more details and the most up-to-date forecast later in our weather. A new electronic identification system to help Tasmania's sheep and goat producers has been unveiled by the state government. More than $11.5 million will be provided to assist sheep and goat producers transition to the new ID system by January next year, when electronic tagging will become mandatory.
Because we know that if we were in a position, for example, where a disease like foot and mouth came to Australia, we need to ensure that traceability is as strong as it possibly can be to ensure that really good biosecurity response.
The Primary Industries Minister says all Australian states have worked together to implement the measure. It's a fun play on words, but this year's Ginuary Festival will offer more for participants to sample than just gin. Organisers announcing a variety of locally distilled spirits will feature for the thousands expected to visit.
Knocklofty Distillery's busy prepping the perfect gin. The backyard business is one of many set to appear at this year's Ginuary.
It's that opportunity to show not just Tasmanians, but people from the mainland, what's happening in the Tasmanian distilling area.
The event, now in its 7th year, is set to take place over the upcoming long weekend at Princess Wharf 1.
We've got over 30 stalls coming down, so more than 100 different gins to try.
There are a few extra guests invited this year. The menu expanded to include all kinds of spirits, despite the festival's name.
So we're going to see some RTDs, some rums, vodkas, limoncellos, absinthe, you name it, we're probably going to have it.
Close to 2,000 people are expected to walk through the doors to sample a signature gin and tonic, creating vital exposure for the little guys and some bigger names.
There's friendly competition, but you're always interested in what other people are doing, and people are always willing to share their products with other distillers, and there's, you're tasting and sharing.
And if you're not sure where to start out, Roger recommends their signature juniper gin.
Encourage them to try it without tonic, without soda, in a small amount, and then, and have it how they normally would drink their gin.
There are still some tickets online. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
The Carrick Racecourse is one of Australia's oldest, and now history is quite literally lining the walls. The club opening a history room teeming with memorabilia, showcasing the highlights from more than 170 years of harness racing.
Almost 90 years ago, the first Inter-Dominion, the Melbourne Cup of the harness world, was won in Perth by the smallest horse in the race, Tasmanian stallion Logan Derby.
I don't know how he got to Western Australia, but it's a long way from here in 1940, so it was a pretty big effort alone just to get there, in my opinion.
5 other Tasmanians have since gone on to become Inter-Dominion champions. Their sashes, photos and other memorabilia have pride of place in a new history room opened today at Carrick Pacing Club.
We've had a lot of champion horses come out of Tasmania, so it's nice to be able to honour the horses, the people, the families.
Race-winning whips, silks and trophies fill several rooms under the old Carrick grandstand, donated by families from around the state.
This sulky here was used by the great horse Howes back in the 1968, 69, 70 era.
In Halwez's last 4 years of racing, it was only beaten twice.
And the others are all out of the race. Halwez runs home an easy winner.
Once given a red carpet welcome home at Launceston Airport.
He was recognised as the best horse ever in Australia at that time. Came from just up the road at Hagley.
And it's a fitting place to host the display. At 176 years old, it's one of the oldest tracks in the country.
Yeah, got a lot of history, so we thought it was time to recognise that and get a museum or history room up and going, and yeah, quite proud of it.
There's a great deal of pride amongst those attending the opening today, including museum curator Karen Dornhoff, one of Tasmania's first female harness drivers. She also met her husband at the track.
I think I went to the races when I was 2 weeks old the first time. I think it's just in your blood and you do it because you love it.
Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
Launceston's Princess Theatre will undergo a multi-million-dollar upgrade. The City Council says it will improve functionality and accessibility, stumping up the first $1.7 million. The historic theatre, which was built in 1911, has engaged a Melbourne-based architectural firm for the works.
We're excited to appoint Lovell Chen, who are an expert in theatres, who come out of Victoria and have done the Regent Theatre, the Princess Theatre, the Athenaeum and Palais Theatres in Melbourne. So we're excited to get their input into what they think that this theatre could be into the future to ensure that we are fit for purpose for future generations.
Managed by Theatre North, the heritage-listed building has hosted a range of local, national and international performances over its long life. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has paid a quick visit to our state, touring a tassal processing facility and spruiking the state's multi-million-dollar salmon farming industry. Protesters there to greet him, demanding the removal of salmon pens from Macquarie Harbour to save the endangered Maugean skate.
We support jobs, but we support it being done in a sustainable way, and we're very confident that that can happen.
Doing photo opportunities with his minister up the West Coast or down here with a Labor senator in southern Tasmania is not what these workers want. They want a Prime Minister that actually stands up for this industry and those workers.
Around 90% of Australian salmon products come from Tasmania.
After its most successful season on record last year, the Tigers' intellectual disability team has been locked in again for the National Inclusion Carnival. 3 new faces added to the squad that made finals last year.
It's nearly the same team as last year, but taking out older blokes and bringing new young deaf in, which is really exciting to see, and they've haven't missed a beat in there. But other than that, mate, we're very excited actually.
The tournament starts in Brisbane on Saturday. And after an undefeated run at the Tasmanian Junior Bowls Championships, Ulverston's Lockie Thurley has taken out the boys' singles title. The event moved indoors due to the weather, Thurley beating Trey Danes 21 shots to 15. Amity Bickley defeating her rival Chloe Collins to win the girls' singles.
Good evening. Wow, what a change in the weather we've seen over the past 24 hours. First up, let's check the numbers though. Hobart and Devonport 20 today. Launceston reached 22 and Burnie 21 degrees. Flinders Island the warmest with 25 as most temperatures all of a sudden drop below the January average. St Helens and Friendly Beaches bucked the trend, 24 the top. King Island and Smithton 21, Lowhead and Grove 20, Bushy Park and Strawn 18 today. And in the 24 hours to 9 a.m, the best rainfall was 70 millimetres at Sprent and Gawler River. Sheffield recorded 54. And since 9 a.m, as this cloud moved over, Cressy had 41 millimetres, Low Head 37 millimetres from that pretty solid rain band. The heavy cloud also affecting eastern Victoria and New South Wales, more cloud rotating over the Northern Territory as well. Tomorrow, the low is to our south with the trough directly to our west. A series of troughs span the interior up to the monsoon trough in the north, so still plenty of action heading our way. Winds turning southwesterly and reaching 25 to 35 knots over the north and northwest, swells to 3.5 metres in western waters. Gale warning for that north and northwestern area, that's between Sandy Cape and St Helens Point. A strong wind warning from St Helens Point to Wineglass Bay and also from Low Rocky Point to Sandy Cape. Tomorrow, still a big chance of rain for most areas, 90% for most places. Hobart 20 degrees, 21 for Cygnet, showers increasing for New Norfolk, 20 the top. Launceston a high of 19 with showers, becoming windy for Devonport, 19 the top as well, 19 also for Campbelltown. Burnie expecting 17, becoming windy with showers, showers for Strawn, 17 the high, 17 also for Smithton. St Helens a high of 20, Swansea showers increasing, 21 the high and 19 for Fingal. Now to Friday, showers over the west and south, but fine in the north and east. Launceston 27, a shower over the east and northeast on Saturday. Hobart 40% chance of a shower and 22 degrees. And on Sunday, fine and sunny over the north, a possible shower for St Helens, Swansea and Hobart. 28 in Perth tomorrow, some cloud cover early over Adelaide, but a good day for cricket tomorrow there. Windy day and 21 in Melbourne, a possible shower for Sydney, 33 and showery in Brisbane. Bit of cloud over Hobart, 18 at the moment, 19 in Launceston and windy in Devonport, currently 18 degrees. Bit of a pause at the moment, Kim, but more wet weather tomorrow.
OK, thank you, Murph. Well, that is all your news for now. We'll have news breaks for you throughout the night. Thanks for joining us. Good night.